Hello and welcome to Lyre. Um, this is a visual novel and I've been meaning to get to it since somebody recommended it like long time ago, but I just never got around to it. But now I have, so yeah. um, I know nothing about it except that actually I don't even know what this guy's name is, and like I briefly played it at the beginning, but yeah. So I'm gonna go into this blind, unlike all the other ones that I do like a little bit beforehand. So yeah. Um, let's begin. Gonna go with the default name. I'm falling, but I don't fear hitting the ground. All around me I see the vast landscape of our land, Tigrine. It is all laid out like a map, slightly curved and difficult to see through the misty clouds. My hands are sprawled out to my side, as if I were a bird gliding through the dense air. This slows the process of my descent, allowing me to truly take in the landscape. I guide my body to look behind me to the northeast and see the kingdom of Lyre, a beautiful city with a massive castle surrounded by walls settled on the lands of the fjord, its snow-capped mountains shining pink with sunlight, the grassy hills rolling down to the waters like a thick blanket. I can see the cliffs of the fjord and how they dip into the river below. The path leading up north through the mountains is treacherous yet serene. Then stretching across to the west of Tigran, I see the kingdom of Urin, my home. The waters of the loch are glistening with sunlight, and the white sand of the coast is unnaturally bright. I see ships going in and out of the bay, their sails filled with deep fall wind. The Shadow Gulch is as ominous as ever, with its cypress trees twisting up from the bottom of the rivers into the sky, surrounding the ground in a deep shadow. My gaze turns to the southern desert, its large plateaus reaching high and forming the canyon pass. This leads down through the Badlands to the Kingdom of Dries and its bustling markets, the walls curving with the shape of the dunes, connecting with the citadel, a great impenetrable structure. My eyes then wander around looking over every detail of the land, forgetting that I'm falling and instead feeling like I'm flying towards wherever my eyes take me. Just as I feel a presence next to me, I see the world pulled from my vision as my body is sent higher at a very fast speed. I feel fear as everything starts to fade from view. I roll over on the cool bed sheets, feeling the air around me compress. My eyes open to a thick light pouring above me, hitting the foot of the bed I'm laying in. I hear the distant clatter of metal, along with voices. It feels like a cold fall afternoon, and there is a stuffy smell that lingers around me as I see dust particles dancing in the light. My mouth tastes dry. My heart starts to rhythmically beat in my chest, picking up pace with every second. I look down at my body and notice that I have thick bandages wrapped around my torso. I reach out with my hand just around my stomach and feel a twinge of pain near the lower right side of my gut. My mind is racing with questions. I sit up and the feeling of all the blood rushing to my head makes everything go dark. I shift in the bed and slowly wriggle myself out from underneath the covers. I go to lift myself from the bed and stumble a bit as I steady myself on the cold floor. I look around the decorated room I'm in. It is elegant, with a nicely sized bed, a desk, and a slightly opened glass door that leads out onto a balcony, where I can see the afternoon light shining down onto the floor. A few bottles and bowls of medicine are strewn about, laying on the cabinet in front of me. I slowly start to walk to the door when I suddenly begin to feel horrible. Everything seems to kick in at once as I'm slowly crouching to the ground. I crawl to the floor and lay there for a second, waiting for it to pass. As I lay there feeling my insides twist around and dance in my body, the doors open, and I'm met with a creepy figure in a dark green robe wearing a pointed mask and a hat. They look as if they were about to do something, but stop in the doorway. I feel their gaze fall on me from behind the dark goggles. Ah, you're awake! Good, yes. He stutters this out with much effort in an odd voice. Oh dear, wait here for a moment, please. I'll be right back with help. He prances and stumbles back through the doorway, leaving it slightly open, his feathery tail floating behind him. All I can do is lay there as I hear him scuttle off, calling someone's name. I start to feel a bit better, and the squeamish feeling subsides slowly. Just as the cold floor starts to feel nice, I hear muffled voices from outside the door. One of them I recognize as the bird, and another seems rather gruff and annoyed. Of course, the minute I leave for a drink, something happens. How long has he been awake? I don't know. He was just lying there on the floor. Is he okay? Well, not really. He seems to be in some pain, but that's expected. Or maybe he was just scared of you. What are you getting at? That mask makes you look ridiculous. It was a safety precaution. I hear the footsteps and voices get closer until they're right outside the door. You'll never catch me wearing one of those. The short, cloaked bird shuffles into the room, carrying a bag. Walking behind him is a wolfman of sorts. He is very tall and muscular, almost having to bend over to walk through the doorway. He closes the door behind him. His right eye is scarred, and he has a semi-annoyed expression on his face, contrary to his tail slightly swishing left and right. His clothes are simple yet elegant, large, white, and bulky with fur trimming and metal plate armor. A large white cape drapes behind him with a blue interior. I see a symbol on the breastplate which I can somewhat recognize as the king's family sigil, a pair of antlers stretching high. He is coated with dark brown fur, which is very fluffy around his neck. His eyes trail around the room, landing on me. He then walks forward and begins to speak. Do you need any help? I nod my head. He stands awkwardly for a moment before walking forward, his padded feet thumping against the smooth floor. The wolf then proceeds to kneel down and gently reaches out to pick me up. He pauses before hastily touching me, reaching under my legs with his paw, and then reaches with his other arm around my back and grips my shoulder. The wolf lifts me up and adjusts me in his grip so that I don't fall. His neck fur grazes against my fur as he carries me over to the bed and lays me down in it, gently reclining me back against one of the large pillows. I mumble out some appreciation. Thank you. He grunts in response. God, Leaf, it's fucking cold in here. At least make him decent and give him a shirt to wear. Clothing would mess with the bandages, and fresh air would do him some good. Besides, how are you cold? I'm not, but the floor feels like ice. I'm sure he's fine. I sit up in the bed with some hesitation and open my mouth to speak. Who are you? The two turn and look at me, and, as Leaf makes a motion to speak, the wolf places a paw on his shoulder. My name is Lyall Reed. I'm the commander of the Royal Guard. And this is the royal family physician, Leaf. He says this with a certain twinge of proudness, his tail swishing slightly. Yes, I'm sure we can dispense with the formalities for now. Do you remember anything before the crash? I look down at my torso and the two connect. So that's what happened. You can't remember? He has a curious look on his face as his eyes stare into mine with extreme intensity while Leaf scuttles over to the bedside table. Kind of. It's all a bit vague. Here, have some water. Leaf walks over to me carrying a small goblet of water. I accept it cautiously, bringing it to my lips, taking a short drink. Slowly, it all starts to come back to me, as if I had just woken up after a horrible dream. I was on my way north to the Kingdom of Lyre, as an ambassador for the Kingdom of Erin. During a cold and rainy night, on the 11th day of travel, As we were nearing the outskirts of the kingdom, I remember minding my own business in a small, closed-off cart. Suddenly, there was a loud rumbling noise and shouting. That's all I remember. I can't really remember much of what happened, just everything before blacking out. On the mountain pass just outside the outer city, there was a rock slide. It wiped through most of your small entourage and killed some men. When our rangers came upon where it happened, your carts and wagons were almost decimated. You had a piece of splintered wood lodged in your side. Thankfully, it didn't hit anything vital, and you seem to have recovered well over the past 4 days. While Lyall rants about how the mountain pass is too dangerous to take anymore, I look down at my side and feel the bandages. It's painful, but not enough to bring a wince through my body. I was out for 4 days? Aside from the occasional stirring in your sleep. I quickly tried to shake off the thought of someone watching me sleep. That would have been pretty scary, waking up in the middle of the night to a 6.5-foot tall wolf in the corner of an unfamiliar room. Well, I hope this hasn't cut into anything important. Don't worry, things have been quite slow lately. There hasn't been much being discussed, and we're still waiting for the ambassador from Dries. He falls silent, at first staring out the window behind me before his eyes fall back down. His tail swishes slightly, and after a long, awkward pause, he speaks again. The king has assigned me to be your personal guard. This statement surprises me. I was not expecting the king to assign me a guard, let alone the captain himself. For some reason, on my way here, my imagination led me to think of a king who was rash and dismissive, and had no time for political nonsense. I thought I would be completely on my own. That's usually how it goes. As I'm thinking this, Leaf moves over to the other side of the room and fiddles with something in his little bag. I'm sure that you'll do a fine job, sir. I'll make sure to give my thanks to the king. Lyall grimaces a bit, and his nose gives a small twitch. You don't have to refer to me with such titles. Lyall is fine. I give him a slight nod. This certainly isn't the introduction I had hoped for. One moment I'm sitting in my cart, heading around the mountain pass, almost to my destination where I would be received by castle staff, and possibly even the king himself. Instead, I wake up in my new chambers, unfortunately having missed everything important for my arrival. And, as kind as these two are, the situation I find myself in is less than preferable. I sigh and shake my head. Well, as long as I haven't missed out on anything important. My thoughts still dwell on the crash. I haven't really had enough time to let it settle in that people just died, that I almost died. It's a shame that the rock slide happened, and I'm very thankful that your rangers were able to save my life and many others. Lyall gives a slight smirk of acknowledgement, and I can already tell that he's a bit modest, even if his tail is sweeping the ground. It's their job. Leaf struts over to me with a small bowl of some weird mushy substance. It looks familiar, but I haven't had to take that much medicine in my life. Here's something to ease the pain. This is most likely the very last time that you'll have to take it, considering you've healed very fast already. I stare down at the bowl in discomfort as Leaf drones on about the unique healing process innate to humans, along with some other stuff I didn't care to focus on. I take the small bowl and drink down the strange mix. It has a thick consistency. The texture is like eating sandy mud. Not that I've ever done that before. The taste, however, is not as bad as I thought it would be. It has a savory flavor that's very hard to describe. Still not pleasant enough for me to thoroughly enjoy it. If you don't mind, I'd like to take a look at your bandages, and also to see how your recovery is coming along. I look down at my side and lift the covers a bit. Sure, I guess. Leaf walks around to the other side of the bed and begins to awkwardly unwrap the bandages with his gloved hands. When I catch Lyall watching from across the room, he quickly averts his gaze. He certainly is expressive, though he tries to hide it. Leaf finishes unwrapping the bandages, and I finally get a good look at the wound. It looks a bit messy, a dark red color around the skin, and the scar it left behind isn't pretty. Ah, it's coming along nicely. He's got to be kidding. He takes a damp sponge and begins to lightly dab and rub at it. I see the wound start to clean up nicely, and after a minute, Leaf rubs some weird cream on it with a sponge, and he seems to be done. Lyall is turned around, meekly fidgeting with something on the desk. I'm not surprised to see that you're getting better very fast. You should be able to walk now without risk of opening up the wound. Just try to take it slow. How can I take things slow when everything's happening so fast? That's good to hear. Thank you. Leaf seems to be happy to hear that his efforts are appreciated, as I can hear his tail lightly flipping up and down, rhythmically tapping against the ground for a second. I'm always happy to help. Let me know if you need anything else. And with that, he picks up his bag and makes his way to the door before turning to Lyall. I'll leave the rest to you. He shuffles through the doorway and it closes behind him with a soft thud. The silence settles once Leaf leaves. Lyall is clearly uncomfortable with it, so he speaks up. Leaf usually knows what he's talking about, but are you sure you're okay? He gives me a look of concern for a moment, but then his eyes dart, first to the floor, then around the room. Aside from my body feeling sore, after being awake for a bit, I feel better. I feel good enough, I guess. He looks at me with a smile and adjusts himself. Well, if you want to get dressed, your clothes and other things were brought up. He gestures over to the corner of the room where I can see my trunks and belongings. Even though I'm wrapped in bandages around my torso, I still feel underdressed, so I guess putting on some clothes would definitely help. I make a motion to rise, but Lyall shoots me a worried look. Maybe I can get you something to wear. Oh sure, just the outfit from the trunk over there. I point to the trunk on the left, which has the outfit I was going to wear when I met the king. He makes his way over to the pile of trunks, his cape gliding across the floor behind him with each careful step. Lyall looks very out of place in this room. Everything looks so small compared to him. He bends down and unlatches the trunk. I see him pause to look at its contents, then proceeds to curiously sift through it. His ears perk up really high when he finds the outfit. He clumsily stands from his kneeling position and walks over to the side of my bed carrying the outfit. It's nothing too fancy. I may have some form of noble status, but I don't tend to overplay it. It is, however, the nicest outfit I own that fits the climate. The main parts of it are made from cotton, with bits of silk here and there. There is the basic undershirt with flowy sleeves and a slight ruffle. The trousers are layered and tight-fitting, with pockets on the side. Tailcoats usually are not my favorite article of clothing to wear. Usually I lean towards robes or jackets. There is some fur, and there is a small scarf that I can wrap around my neck and tuck into the vest. Lyall places the outfit on the bed and takes a step back. Is this the one? He says this with a bit of worry, as if he made the wrong decision. Yeah, this is it. I sit up and grab onto the pair of pants. I go to change and realize what's wrong with this. Should I bathe first? Lyall looks at me with a dismissive gaze, then talks. You smell fine to me. I guess someone like him would be the best judge of that. I go to unbutton my trousers but stop, realizing that he's watching. Do you mind looking the other way? Of course. He quickly turns on his heels and stands on the other side of the room, staring out the window, the light eclipsing around his dark fur. I take off my trousers and undergarments, putting on a fresh new pair, and then fasten the new slacks. As I secure the last button, I lift my head and speak in his direction. Okay, you're good. Sorry. He turns away from the window quickly, as if he was frustrated with something happening outside. I reach down for the shirt and bring it up over my head. As my arms rise above my head, I feel a sharp pain in my side and wince. Lyall clearly sees this. Maybe I should help. No, really, it's fine. I just need to. I slide my arms through the sleeves and my head pops through the collar. Before I'm even able to finish putting the vest on, Lyall is walking around to the other side of the bed carrying the tailcoat. He lifts it up, motioning to put it on me. He drapes the coat over me slowly, with the collar fitting around my neck. I carefully embrace it and start putting it on. So, you're going to be my guard? If you'll have me. He says this with a solemn look on his face. I guess it wouldn't hurt. I really don't mind it. I don't know if I'll need the protection, but it's always nice to be prepared. It's also nice to have a guide of sorts to show me around. It definitely would help. Almost half of your men were wiped out in that disaster. The king thought that you could use some extra paws. And I can show you the castle and escort you to town. I would like that a lot. Although, I don't know if I have the time for it. That sounds nice. The king also thought that you might like to have someone in a high position that you can trust. He says this with a certain proudness in his voice and a slight smile. I decide to humor him. What makes you think I trust you? He stops moving one of the sleeves up my arm for a moment, then starts again, his mouth twisting into an embarrassed smile. Don't worry, I jest. Very funny. He grumbles to himself as I fasten the buttons on the front. So, you watched me while I slept? He's taken aback by this statement. I'm your guard. I was stationed outside of your room to watch. Believe me, it's not something I wanted to do. It's not like you're in any danger. Why were you up at night? Do you take both day and night shift? I don't need to sleep all that much. Plus, I feel more awake at night. Oh, yeah. I've heard that some races don't need as much sleep. Maybe 3 to 4 hours within a 24-hour period. I guess that's good for someone in his position. Well, it's fine. Again, I was only joking. I do enjoy watching this wolf get flustered. You're just full of jokes, aren't you? He shakes his head with a slight laugh, sighing as he looks at the floor. One of his teeth hangs out of his mouth in a goofy way. I take this moment of silence to get down to business. Does the king request my presence? I realize that it's a bit foolish of me to dress for the occasion before even considering that I might not even be able to meet the king today. I'm just looking forward to meeting him and discussing certain matters that pertain to my job. I'm not even sure that the king knows that you're awake at this moment, but I assume that he will find out shortly. Most likely, you'll be able to speak with him during supper tomorrow. That does sound interesting. I definitely wouldn't mind having a nice meal right now. Speaking of supper, I'm very hungry. Don't worry, that's already been taken care of. Leaf would have sent for one of the servants to bring you some food by now. Especially since they won't have to feed you with that weird tube. Did they seriously have to do that? I feel sick at that thought. Only twice, and don't worry, it's not that bad. That little twerp may be a little weird at times, but he knows his way around medicine, and has been able to achieve things most wouldn't even imagine to be possible. Lyall has an odd relationship with the bird. It sounds like he respects him, though. From what I've seen, he seems to know his way around his work, and I trust him. He seems pretty jumpy, though. I wouldn't imagine he's the best at surgery. Then again, I'm still here. Unless he had help. So, how did you find yourself in this position? Well, that came out of nowhere. Um, I think for a moment about what I should say. I don't want to give away too much about myself. Well, I was granted nobility in the West, and I'm good at what I do. At least I'd like to think that I am. Sometimes I feel like I was carried through my position. The look on Lyle's face tells me that was a bit too vague. What? That's it? He has an unsatisfied look on his face. But then he shrugs. I'm sure there's more to it. Well, if I'm going to tell you my life story, you better tell me yours. And I'll need a drink. Deal. It's not even the 18th hour by the time the sun dissipates behind the mountains, and I'm forced to light a candle. I've taken off most of my outfit, folded it, and set it down on the corner for tomorrow. Lyall is reclined in one of the chairs, telling me about when he was a squire, when there was a knock at the door. His ears perk up and he sniffs at the air. I thought I smelled food. Really? Because all I can smell is wine. He stumbles getting up, yet confidently walks over to the door. Though he tries to hide it, he's a bit tipsy. He opens it and greets the server. A cart is pushed in as Lyall steps back. The cart is filled to the brim with all different types of foods. I see a roasted duck, cooked fish, all laid on the greens surrounded by vegetables. I recognize these delicacies due to them being abundant where I'm from. There's some bread and cheese with a weird sauce in a bowl off to the side. On a side tray, there's a fresh bottle of wine with what looks to be a piece of mint. Thank you. I call out to the server standing in the doorway. He nods in acknowledgement and leaves. Lyall stands there for a moment before adjusting his cape. Well, enjoy your meal. He makes to leave the room, but I speak up. Oh, you're not gonna join me? He pauses for a moment and turns to answer. That's very generous of you, but I'll just go eat in my quarters later. Besides, I already rated you of your wine. And I have stuff that I need to do. I'm sad that I have to see him go, but he also looks a bit conflicted. I don't think I can be alone right now. I need some company after everything that's happened. Oh, come on, I insist. Besides, this is way too much food, even for someone who hasn't had a proper meal in days. He turns away from the door before closing it with a smile on his face. Well, if it's okay with you, then I guess I can stay. He walks back over to one of the chairs and sits down. I take a bunch of the food and put it on my plate. The fish looks really good, so I grab some of that first. There's a piece of parchment placed in the center of the tray. I pick up the note and read it. Enjoy. R. Maybe that's the chef? Once I'm done, Lyall begins filling up his plate. He takes quite a bit of it, and most of the duck is gone by the time he's done plating his food. And I thought I was taking a lot. He plops into his chair and starts to eat. After a few minutes of somewhat quiet eating, he continues his story. Anyway, I was a squire for Lord Byrne, up until the age of 19. Then I was made an anointed knight by the king. Wow, that's really young age to become a knight. And now you're the captain? Yup. How old are you now? 22. You're the captain of the guard and you're only 22? I blurt this out before immediately regretting it. I'm only just about to turn 20 and I'm already being sent out far away on diplomatic missions, so I guess I shouldn't be talking. But still, most people aren't even knighted until they're 21. Believe me, I was just as surprised as you are. But a captain usually has a next in line selected in case they die. When Sir Renard died, he had me chosen as his successor. Everyone said that he was grooming me for command, but I didn't really suspect it. The king was pleased with this though, so I didn't question it. He takes a grape, plops it in his mouth, and chews it with a distant look on his face. Did you not want to be captain? He stops chewing for a moment, then keeps going. It's something that I wanted, but it just happened so fast. Yeah, I understand. It must be stressful being put into a position like that so fast. Well, I'm sure you're doing a good job. I hope so. He takes another drink from his cup. I take another bite from my fish. It's soft and basically melts in your mouth. It's the best food I've had in a long time. Maybe it's because I was so hungry. The fish tastes much different from the fish off the coast of Erin? I don't know how to pronounce that word. Lyall empties his cup and then reaches for the pitcher to pour some more. So, Richter, how old are you? I'm 19. Hmm, you looked a bit older than 19 to me. I cock an eyebrow at him. Not that that's a bad thing. Well, the same can be said for you, Scruffy. I jokingly drag my finger across my right eye, hinting at a scar. Heh, I guess so. He reaches up and rubs a paw over his eye, while chuckling. How did you get it? If you don't mind me asking. He contemplates for a moment, then pours more wine. I'll tell you that story someday. And I need a lot more wine than this. He lifts the bottle and sloshes it around slightly. His speech is a bit slurred due to the drunk state he's in. He takes a big drink from his cup and lowers it with a satisfied exhale. It must be interesting. That's one way to describe it. He picks up his empty plate and sets it on the tray. I'm finishing a piece of bread when I notice his eye lights up. Can I have this piece of mint? He holds up a little bundle of leaves. Yeah, you can have it. Thank you. Mint is my favorite. He pops a piece of it in his mouth and chews on it in pure bliss, his tail wagging. I finish my plate and place it on the tray. I'm feeling very tired now that I have some food in my stomach. I can tell Lyall senses this. Thanks for letting me eat with you, bud. He gets up from his chair with a grunt and pats his stomach. I should probably be going, and I'm sure that you're going to have a busy day tomorrow. He starts walking towards the door. No need to thank me, you're good company. He smiles and opens the door. Have a good night, and I'll be guarding the hall for a bit if you need anything. Good night. He kind of stumbles through the door, and it closes with a thud. I take off the rest of my outfit, blow out the candle, then fall into bed. Today was certainly a strange day. I've only been awake for a couple of hours, but I feel so tired. My side still feels a bit sore, but it should get better with time. Lyall and Leaf seem really nice. Especially Lyall. I'm glad that I was in their care while I was out. I can't help but be excited to meet the king tomorrow. It may sound boring, but I'm actually looking forward to my job. The wine gets to me, and I slowly drift off. My eyelids feel dry and burn at the corners. I lay there motionless, not because I can't move, but because I don't want to. I feel so exhausted. The lower halves of my arms and legs feel like stone pillars. I slowly collect myself as I wake up. Sometimes, when I'm waking up, it takes me a minute to realize that I even exist. I have to steadily become aware of my surroundings. I groggily open my eyes. It's still night. I look out the moonlit window and scan the room, adjusting my eyes. That would make sense considering how much sleep I've already gotten. I raise myself from my reclined position. Halfway to a sitting position, I feel a tug at my throat. It feels like a smooth rope is tied around my neck. It pulls me back with a hard jolt. I feel a burning substance lurch down my throat. It's acidic and has an awful taste to it. What's happening? I struggle in the grasp, but it appears pointless. There's a harder tug as the rope pulls me deeper into the bed. I feel the burning liquid pour down my throat faster now as my upper body sinks into the covers. I try to scream out for Lyall, hoping that he's in the hall still. I see shadows cast through the cracks under the door. It looks like someone is on the other side, standing in front of it. I hear a breath in my right ear. Live. I jolt awake, eyes wide open, breathing hard as my chest heaves up and down. The early morning light is pouring through the window, casting a pink hue on the bricks. I fucking hate nightmares. They're even scarier when they make sense. It's much different when they consist of preposterous scenarios that could never even happen. Nightmares like the one I just had are the ones that linger in my head for a while after they happen. I've really got to stop drinking before bed. I rustle out of bed and get to my feet. The ground is still a bit cold. I should probably ask if I could have a rug brought up. I walk across the room, my bare feet slightly padding against the cool ground, sending a fresh feeling through my body. The stress from the vivid nightmare is slowly fading away as I lightly move towards the window. Once I reach it, I press my hand on the cold glass and look outside. There isn't much to see from the side of the castle, just some mountains and the sky. I wish I had a view of the town. I stare out at the mountains and the way they cascade down from the skies like great stone blankets covered in grass. The trees are slowly losing their leaves as winter approaches. I hear the door open and some shuffling. I turn around to see Leaf standing in the doorway, carrying a tray with food. I see some meat with cheese and some bread with a cream spread. It all looks really good, and I'm a bit hungry. I thought that I would bring your breakfast up since I wanted to give you some of this. He nudges the corner of the tray where a small bottle shakes around. You seem to be doing just fine now, but in case you feel any pain, you can take a spoonful of this. I rub my side and don't really feel any discomfort. It feels a bit sore though. Thank you. It's no problem. He sets the tray down on the small table next to the bed. After fiddling with one of the bottles, he turns and looks in my direction. His gaze meets with my side, and he tilts his head in curiosity. You're healing very fast. I rub at my side and shrug. Humans do that. You said it yourself. I did. I decide to change the subject. How often do you wear that thing? I say, slightly pointing to his mask. I, uh, I find that it's very useful in my profession. He holds his hands together down by his waist as he idly pats his clawed foot against the ground. Has anyone ever seen your face? He looks down with a sigh of defeat and then brings his gloved hands behind his head. I see him start to fiddle with a little leather latch on the back. He pulls the mask off, tossing it onto the bed. He then takes his hat off and looks up at me. He looks like a raven, which I find ironic. His little beady green eyes stare up at me. Without the mask, he looks a lot more approachable. Satisfied? He says in a curious, yet slightly annoyed tone. Perfectly. I say back with some satisfaction. He goes to put his mask back on while averting his gaze. I feel a lot better with you poking and prodding me now that I know what you look like. I honestly didn't care that much, but I didn't want him to think he could get away with that on every patient. Well, I'm glad that I can make you feel a bit more comfortable. He steps over to the door and opens it. If you have any questions, just ask me or anyone around the castle. Where's Lyall? Leaf pauses for a moment, leaning his head out of the doorway to quickly stare down the hall. At this time of the morning, he could be anywhere. I wonder if he's still sleeping. One would hope he didn't have to stay out in the halls all night. I think of any other questions I might have. I could really use a bath. I feel very unclean. Where is the bathing room? If you head to the left, it's at the very end of the hallway, behind the wooden door painted white. Left, wooden door, painted white. Got it. Thank you. You're very welcome. Have a nice day. With that, he leaves through the doorway, and I'm left alone again. I'm glad that I managed to get him to take off that mask. It's not like I'm someone riddled with a contagious disease. I walk over to the desk near the door and fidget with some of the things on it. There's a nice looking quill, which I pick up and twirl around in my fingers. I set it back down and then walk over to my pile of belongings. I'll probably have someone come up and unpack my things. I guess I can arrange them to my liking once they're at least out of their trunks. I turn back to the tray of food sitting on my bed and carry it over to the desk. I sit down in the chair and scoot it forward. It's very comfortable and the desk is also perfect height. I go through the food pretty quickly as I stare out the window at the clouds moving by. Before I know it, I'm done with my meal and drink the last of my water. It only takes me a couple of minutes to gather my things and head out the door. That's actually where I'm going to leave it for today, because I don't want episodes to get too long. I was supposed to be timing myself, but I kind of forgot. So yeah, hopefully this doesn't go over an hour. But anyways, that was, I think, the first, like the prologue or chapter 1 of Lyre. And I might have gone over a little bit to chapter 2, but whatever. So yeah, a lot of people were already waiting for me to do this. And for the people that don't know about Lyre, what did you guys think? Do you like this little goofy wolf here? I like how they did the little animated save slots. But yeah, I still don't know much about the story yet, and I'm assuming people from the town, I still can't pronounce that name, or the city, or whatever this is, Irin, and the people from the Dries, which are like behind this slave slot over here, they're all going to Lyre up here under page 1 to discuss something. What is being discussed, I don't know. I guess we'll find out later. And I'm assuming stuff is gonna happen. I mean, stuff always happens. And I'm assuming whoever this protagonist is, whether they're human or, a furry, they're gonna be put in the middle of all of this, along with Lyall. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right too, because like I heard a rumor that like the names are sort of like puns on lie, like Lyre, which is the name of an instrument, Lyall. And I might be pronouncing Leaf's name wrong. It might be like a weird pronunciation of like life. That actually might be his name, Life. Thinking about it now, that might be his name. But yeah, so anyways, thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Lyre yourself, there will be a link down in the description. If you would like to support the team, I think they have a Patreon? I'm not sure. I haven't checked yet. And if they do, I will put a link down in the description. And if you would like to follow their Twitter, I will put a link down for that. Anyways, that's it for now, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.